Hey folks, we are recording at Chainlink's SmartCon event, and joining me is Patrick Witt, who is the Executive Director of the President's Council of Advisors for Digital Assets. Patrick, great to have you.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Patrick, I was looking forward to this conversation all day because a lot of eyes are on the market structure bill and what's happening in DC. Tell us a bit about what you're doing and any updates around the market structure bill.
Well, I'm pretty much camping out on Capitol Hill these days, it feels like, going from office to office and dealing with both banking committee members and ag committee members.
Sure.
Very encouraged, especially over the past few weeks, some of the traction that we're getting with different offices, different members who are really starting to engage. Many of them have been engaged for months and years, on this text and these different concepts, but there's a lot of them that are, going to be asked to vote here pretty soon.
Yep.
And are now starting to really grapple with these issues and ask for the explainers and kind of the job aids, if you will, to help them understand the bill and what it does. Nobody wants to get this wrong, and so
Right.
as you get closer to a vote, it kind of sharpens the focus. But very encouraged. Republicans and Democrats are engaging with this text now, offering improvements, edits, asking good questions, and I think we're going to get there. But clock's ticking, and we're
Yes.
trying to keep the pressure on, gentle pressure, but
Sure.
make sure that folks know what a priority this is for the president and for my boss, David Sachs.
Absolutely. We heard President Trump say he wants to make America number one in crypto and digital assets. So I'm assuming him making those statements is lighting some fire under the seats of some of these folks to get things done.
Well, he said it again just the other night on 60 Minutes,
Right.
reiterating that commitment that he made on the campaign trail, and he
Right.
means it. I mean,
Yeah.
he understands what an engine this is for American growth, our economy, the innovation engine, that it unleashes. And so we're doing everything that we can to make that vision, to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world, or as David likes to say, of the planet, a reality. So every day I wake up, wondering about what we can do to move the ball forward, not only on Capitol Hill with the legislation, though that's definitely taken up, the vast majority of my time, but also with interagency actions and guidance and, removing regulations or previous policy statements from the Biden, Gensler, Elizabeth Warren era that we're still trying to remove some of the vestiges from.
I have so much trauma from that era, being in the crypto industry, and it's a breath of fresh air under this administration to have the openness to innovate and to build. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs are breathing a sigh of relief, and they feel more optimistic about where things are at.
We're working hard to make sure that there is appropriate regulatory clarity, with DOJ, with Deputy Attorney General Blanche's memo that he put out in April, ensuring that we're reversing course and making sure that we're not criminalizing innovation.
Right.
And so I think that's providing the protection and the certainty that innovators, developers need in order to build their products here, because that's what we want. Everything that we do, we filter through the lens of, is this going to drive innovation offshore? And if it does, then we need to think very, very hard about whether we want to pursue that path, because I think the misconception that the Gensler, the Warren crowd had is that if we just stiff arm crypto, it's ultimately going to kill the industry. Well, it didn't. That proved to definitely be incorrect. It just drove it offshore. So do we want to be number two or a distant third or perhaps even farther down the ladder, or do we want to dominate this industry as we have dominated the financial ecosystem for the past 100 years? So this is the future. We got to make sure that we retain the United States place of primacy in it, and that's what we're committed to doing every day.
Many are calling the time we're in the fourth industrial revolution, where you have the convergence of different technologies, crypto, blockchain, AI, new space exploration opportunities. Is that how the administration's looking at it, that we are in the midst of the next tech boom and could be incredible for the United States to create wealth, jobs, and much more, like you mentioned?
I think that's exactly right. You mentioned a few of them. Crypto, obviously, my primary focus, but also AI, the other side of the house under David.
Right.
I would throw in there, as you mentioned, the space race, some of the defense tech innovations that are taking place with autonomy. there's a number of others. Probably bio would be another area where these different
Robotics.
molecules, and AI has a lot to do with that too, with some of the development of different medicines.
Sure.
It's an incredibly exciting time to be alive, and so I think it's appropriate to call it the fourth industrial revolution. But it's not just one. There's many different ones happening in a lot of different fields, and they're unlocked by these different technologies that cut across them.
But it feels that blockchain may have a bigger reach because it seems like it's going to be the fabric, kind of like the internet, another layer in the internet that the economy and the markets will all run on, because you see Wall Street firms and banks now looking at stable coins, tokenization, and much more.
Yeah, I would say this is a point that I make, when talking with folks, when we're regulating crypto right now, cryptocurrency is one application. Obviously, it's the one that most people know when it comes to blockchain. But what we're doing also has implications for decentralized infrastructure projects. Helium and these others that are approaching the build outs of different infrastructure using decentralized blockchain models. I think there's going to be a lot more that pop up in that space.
Sure.
So very excited about what that could do. And you think about autonomous vehicle fleets, for example. There's different ways that you could conceptualize business models that crypto and decentralized blockchains and applications can enable. So I'm incredibly bullish about the future, but that's why it's so important that the market structure bill that we get done here provides those developer protections, allows people to innovate here at home so that they can build these products and these companies in America.
So are you anticipating once this bill makes it to President Trump, he signs it into law, we see massive innovation here in the United States?
I think there's going to be a lot of folks that continue to reshore. We've already seen some of them. And I point to, the Genius Act that we got passed for stablecoins. What happened shortly thereafter? Tether decided to open up their U.S. operations, so I think that kind of, flash to bang, clear connection between the two is what we want to see. And we love telling good news stories. Anyone that comes in to meet with us in our office, we always make sure to tell them, if there's a good news story to tell, we want to amplify it because there are very few times when you actually get to pass a particular piece of legislation or repeal a policy or pass a new regulation that you then immediately see the benefits that come from it. But we're seeing that very much in this industry because it's such a 180 from the treatment that it got previously that folks are excited. They're grateful. They come in and they thank us, but really they should be thanking President Trump and David for setting the tone and the direction. And we're just there to execute. We're on the front lines, trying to lead it forward, but the direction comes from the top.
You know what it feels like, Patrick? If my history is correct here, 1990s, President Clinton and I believe Al Gore, they got it right with the telecom bill, and which allowed the internet to flourish. And it feels like we're at that moment for blockchain and crypto.
I think that's exactly right. Brad Garlinghouse brought that up this morning when I was talking with him. And the point that we were making is, we need to establish the appropriate safeguards, the rails here to ensure that we're not overburdening the industry, but we're providing that, efficient frontier of regulation that will allow these markets to flourish. And, back then they did exactly that, right? It was a base layer of regulation and rules of the road that allowed the internet industry and everything that was enabled by the internet to grow there. But, 20 years from now, I don't think anyone can predict exactly, what the future will hold for, blockchain, for crypto. So we need to make sure that there's appropriate play in the joints and there's the ability for the, regulatory framework to adapt to all of the things that are coming, down the pike that we can't even predict right now. Who could have predicted exactly what the internet would do and enable in the late 90s? So we need to make sure that what we're doing allows for that appropriate level of adaptation and evolution that will inevitably happen in this industry.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very fascinated how government will adopt blockchain technology and maybe solve some of the legacy issues, current issues that we deal with, and which may become the legacy issues. For example, blockchain with voting, blockchain for payments via whatever it is, IRS, tax payments, and so forth. And even with communications, more trust in communicating with the government and agencies. Are there talks with David Sachs and other folks about integrating blockchain in these things?
Well, I think you saw it already with commerce. Secretary Lutnick, putting some of the economic data on chain. They published that on chain. I think there's going to be more of a movement to get other government data on chain. I mean, the government has tremendous amounts of data that are out there. That putting that on chain, they can then integrate through oracles into different applications and use that data. Couple that with the AI element of it. You've got this massive trove of data, and now you've got the engine that can parse it and develop real insights off of that. I'm passionate about other areas that we can enhance our cybersecurity, and also deliver products and services to citizens, in a way that's more efficient. You mentioned some of the benefits, that could potentially be distributed in a more secure way that can also root out a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse that might exist in the system. I'm thinking healthcare in particular, benefits distribution, but the possibilities are endless. The difficulty we have is trying to filter through all the different opportunities that we could pursue, because your bandwidth is limited, and so you're trying to get the biggest bang for your buck. But that's a trend that's going to continue beyond just this administration.
My ideal scenario, from my own perspective, of course, is that having blockchain integrated with my tax payments, voting, my digital identity, and just makes things more efficient. And whether I'm interacting with the federal agencies or whatever it is just faster and more secure. And hopefully it also curb some of the wasteful spending if you put things on the blockchain. I know Elon tried to do that, but I think maybe eventually we'll get there.
I'm hopeful. I think we will definitely make improvements. I think we as citizens have every right to demand that our government, not only delivers certain services, but delivers them in a customer, friendly way, right? And there hasn't been as much attention paid to that. Joe Gebbia, founder of Airbnb, has kind of been, it got some press a few weeks ago or months ago. I'm not remembering the exact time frame, but as kind of this, chief customer, experience officer, citizen experience officer. So he's got some interesting ideas and some projects that he's pursuing to enhance, the interaction of citizens with their government. So I think blockchain is absolutely a technology that can be used to get after some of those problems. So more to come on that, but we're thinking about government differently. We're thinking about the relationship of citizens to their government differently in a way that I think everybody's going to benefit from. It's not partisan at the end of the day. Folks have every right to demand that their government is responsive to them and as efficient as possible.
Absolutely, well said. A big topic that folks are very curious about is the big strategic Bitcoin reserve. What can you tell us there as far as the process of identifying revenue sources to buy and set up that?
Yeah, so, kind of two parts to it. Number one, we got to get the custody and kind of the safeguarding of the existing assets right with those that have been seized, the different seizing agencies. Make sure that they can centralize those over at the Treasury, put in place appropriate cybersecurity protocols to ensure that those assets are safely kept. And then second, having discussions with different agencies about creative ways that we can, in a budget neutral fashion, add Bitcoin and other digital assets potentially to the balance sheet. So my other hat over at the Department of War is as the acting director of the Office of Strategic Capital. That's a large federal credit program with $200 billion balance sheet. There's interesting ideas that are being kicked around about ways that you could potentially overcapitalize some of the loans that the government is making, not just in the DOW space, but also, FHFA, and housing loans. Because, we want, digital assets on the government balance sheet. We also want them in the hands of everyday Americans. And so one of the ways that we could do that is potentially through, housing and urban development and some of the loans that the government is making there. So early days of discussions there, but I know that there's interesting, innovative, forward-thinking folks at these different agencies who, when you have some of these discussions, they don't go, reject them outright. They say, that's interesting. Let's have another talk, discussion about that and see if we can move out on it. So, we have the right mindset of folks in this administration.
Is there any chance tariff revenue could potentially be used to buy some of these assets?
Potentially, I haven't had that conversation, but yeah, I would say all options are on the table. And again, we have some creative folks, deal makers, business people, whether that's Secretary Lutnick over at the Pentagon, Deputy Secretary Feinberg, obviously Secretary Besant at Treasury. These are folks that are creative in their thinking and deep business-minded oriented folks. So I think that there's going to be exciting discussions that happen in the future.
Patrick, thank you so much for taking the time. I would love to have you back on as things progress, and fingers crossed this market structure bill goes through soon.
Yeah, we'll talk again once the bill is done. Thank you so much for the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
This episode is brought to you by Trezor. Trezor makes beautifully crafted hardware wallets that allow you to easily and safely store your crypto assets. Trezor's been in the game for a very long time. Since 2013, they were the pioneers of hardware wallets and the seed phrase setup, and their hardware wallets are open source. In fact, my favorite is the Trezor Safe 5. It's a beautifully designed and easy to use hardware wallet, guys, and it's my go-to. And they support a variety of coins, all your top crypto tokens, your Bitcoins, your XRP, Ethereum, Solana, and much more. And even new coins, even BlackRock's BUIDL token. So they support coins on the institutional side where you have tokenization of different assets and much more. And they even offer a great service that helps you to get your Trezor device set up. You get one-on-one customer support from their team, so you can check that out as well. So once again, I'm a big fan of this hardware wallet. So if you'd like to learn more, visit the link in the description.